Hey everybody, Brant here with Nutrition First Coaching, and in today's Whiteboard Wednesday video, we're going to cover the third principle for rapid fat loss. And if you remember back to principle number 1, what was king? Energy balance. Principle number 2, what was queen? Macronutrient balance. So now we're going to talk about how to use both of those to figure out what's right for you, how to make that fat loss rapid, preserve muscle, feel good, and live a long, healthy life, and really some beneficial things to long-term having the healthy body composition and physique you want, and why that's so important. So let's get into the video. All right, this is the third principle of rapid fat loss. So if we're using those first two principles, now we can use a lot of different formulas to try to figure out something close to what you're probably going to need. But without this principle, we cannot dial that in to exactly what your snowflake of a body is going to need. So what I mean by that is you're an individual, and we can use formulas. There's all kinds of different formulas out there to figure out how many calories you're going to need. If you're on a higher protein, high fat diet, how many macros of those you're going to need versus how little carbs or how much protein you're going to need per pound of body weight. Multiply that by your activity, which is always kind of a guesstimation and varies day to day. You're going to be close. You're going to be in the ballpark, and I definitely recommend that because you want to get in the ballpark so that from there you can apply this principle, which is really trying to manipulate what you're doing on a daily basis to figure out exactly what's right for you. And without objective feedback, you're going to struggle to do that on your own. And sometimes even with that, you're going to struggle to be objective and to really keep making the changes you need to make. So if you keep doing the same thing over and over, you might lose some weight. A week or two or a month or 6 weeks will go by and you think everything's going great, and all of a sudden that you're having that same breakfast, same lunch, your workout's the same, and you're really not losing any weight. And you keep checking the scale, but you're not really keeping track of it. Some days it's up, some days it's down, but roughly it's about the same. So you're not really sure if you're losing weight or not. Maybe you need to do something else. Maybe you need to cut more calories. Maybe you need to go keto. Maybe you need to change everything up that you're doing. You don't stop. What you need to do is have some objective metrics, and that's where I like to kind of lean on these three things and do them consistently, and this is going to give you some objective feedback to make sure you're doing the correct everyday things. So we'll get into the correct everyday things some other time, or probably in dozens of videos. I've covered those things too, but the first thing that you need to do to really be objective is to take your daily weight on the scale. So if we're going to kind of manipulate what we're doing with our total calories or our energy we're taking in, and we're going to manipulate those macronutrients, then we're going to weigh ourselves every day, and we're going to take that average. Say we weigh every day, we're going to take it by 7. That's going to give our average over the week. And then that way we can look at each week and we can kind of compare what's happening. I would recommend a digital scale so that you really know to the 157.6, and then you average it over the week, and the next one's 156.5, and you can start to see like, ooh, a 1.1 pound. You can start to see that average over the week. If you only weigh yourself once or twice or 3 times a week, and then you kind of divide that and you're like, I don't know, one day I was 158, one day I was 156, one day I was 159.2. You don't really know if you're losing weight, gaining weight, if that's, you ate a little more sodium the day before or more carbs and you're kind of retaining some water. Maybe there's hormonal things going on. Your body's going to fluctuate quite a bit. So I know people have like scale like phobias and I get that, but I think if you're just objective about it, you get up, you go to the bathroom, you weigh yourself, you put that down in your journal and your notes in your phone, someplace where you can keep it, and you just put it away. Who cares what it says? other than the fact that you're looking at what the trend is over time, so you can take averages of that, so you can know if you're doing the right thing. And that's kind of number one. Number two, you're going to do every 2 weeks, and these are taking standardized photos. So here I put front, back, right, left, and what I mean by standardized is at this point you need the camera the same distance away, try to wear the same clothing, do it the same time of day, same light in the room. That way you can really be objective on what you look like versus, if you're 2 or 3 feet further away, or you're wearing different clothing and it's evening versus morning. I mean, little things are going to change, and you want to be able to see how things are looking. And this is one that takes 3, 4, 5 pictures over time to really start to see some objective differences. And you can share that with somebody that you trust, have them look at it, see if they see differences over time as well. That's a pretty important one. Everybody has a little bit of trouble with that one. They don't like doing it, but I think it's really helpful, and to be objective, it's definitely helpful. Number 3 is going to be circumferential measurements. Now for this, you really need, I don't have mine here, but you have your little spring-loaded measuring tape. They're like, I don't know, less than $10 on Amazon. With this, you can put it around your waist, you put it in there, and you just let it go, take a few deep breaths, and then you can kind of see exactly where it's at. You put it around your arm, you just let everything relax. You can get exactly what you want versus trying to hold a tape there and you're breathing in and out. So it's easier with the spring-loaded version, and definitely worth the purchase. But what I would say on this one is, just get kind of 5 basic body parts. Each arm, each leg, usually around the thighs is the best thing. You can even measure from, say you go from your elbow bone and you measure up 5 inches, and then you go around there, put that down, so every time you can take it in the same spot. Same thing on the leg, up from the knee, go up 8 or 10 inches, measure from there. And then you're going to get your chest. That one's a little easier. You can go like right at nipple line, or right at kind of below the sternum there. And then for the last 2, these have some overall health implications, and this is probably where you're going to notice it the most, and that's between the waist and the hips. So the biggest difference in these is somewhere below the last rib and the top of the hip bone that you feel in the front. If you go right in the middle of there, typically that's the belly button, depends on your body shape, but you can be standardized about that, going 2 inches below the last rib. And then the hips is going to be the biggest part of your butt, essentially, and go around that. And you can divide the waist and the hips, and that's going to give you a ratio too. And there's some standardized measurements to be in a range for that kind of gives you some different health markers. And I don't recall exactly what they are off the top of my head, but it's like 0.9 is and above is points to certain metabolic problems because you're having too much kind of visceral or abdominal fat there. I think that's for women. Men's a little lower, 0.88 I think is what it is, but you can look those up and it can tell you exactly. Those are 3 good ones, and if you're measuring these things over time and applying this principle of having some objective measurements and then making one change, using the scientific method, make one change and then see how that affects things over a few weeks. Sure, it's going to take a little longer to do it this way, but it's going to be the least amount of stress going this way because you're making these certain changes, and then you're watching the results objectively. Yeah, there's a lot of other things I talk to my clients about. I use an acronym called SHREDS, and that's sleep, hunger, rest, energy, digestion, and stress. And we talk about all those and how they affect these more objective measurements. And then, of course, everyday life has all kinds of measurements in it. How are you performing? How are you feeling? You got libido, energy, all those kind of things too, but these are the most objective ones. If you want somebody to help you with this stuff, which I highly recommend, I've had coaches in my life for everything, and I truly believe in the coaching process. The coach can be your objective measure of these. You feed them the information, and they can be the objective measure, and they can help you make those slight little adjustments along the way and make this as efficient and easy of a process as possible, enjoyable. I will leave you with one thing too. Your body becomes more efficient over time. So as you lose weight, you're going to have to make adjustments to what you're doing, not only food-wise, but movement-wise, to continue losing weight or losing body fat and maintaining muscle. This can sound like a really negative thing, but as you become more efficient, that means you're in better shape, you're more fit. And the side benefit of this is when you get down to that body composition you want, a certain amount of muscle and body fat, then you can sit at that maintenance set point for a certain amount of time. And this kind of depends on genetics, can be anywhere from a few weeks to a few months. And then your body's going to remember that set point. And then it's going to work to your advantage because it's always trying to get back to that set point. So this will allow for a little more flexibility, whereas you may not have had much flexibility on the way to this set point. Now you're going to have this flexibility now that you've maintained it for several months. Your body's going to want to stay there and it's going to want to get back to that set point. So that may be you overeat a little bit, get a few more calories than you need. You're not just going to start gaining weight right away. You can make those pretty simple adjustments, a little bit of less food the next day, or maybe you change your strength program a little bit and you're going to sit at that set point way easier. So I hope this was encouraging and helpful. It's a challenging process, but you put all three of these basic principles together, and fat loss, not just weight loss, but fat loss is definitely achievable for anybody. Give it a go. Give me a call if you want to talk about it. I love doing strategy calls with people. Let me know if you have some questions about this, things that you've tried at home, or maybe things that you measure along the way. Keep up the good work. I'll talk to you next week.